get charts now. All right, recently got these in the mail, and I've been meaning to talk about them, which is the first officially released adventure for Transformers role-playing game, if I can have my camera stop glaring at it, which is called the Beacon of Hope. Beacon of Hope. And you also get, if you buy the combined kind of like 2-in-1 version, you also get the DM screen. Two things that will be very useful for you because if you've never run the Essence20 system, and especially Transformers game has a couple of special rules that this will give you kind of handy charts to not have to look up the rule book. But first things first, we are going to talk about the adventure here. I'm going to try to keep it as spoiler-free as possible, but just keep in mind there may be a few things that slip through the cracks about this. But I'm just going to go through and review it. So first things first, when I look through this, it is concise, and it also has enough room in it that it kind of makes fun of itself at a couple of points. It's not too egregious that it gets in the way, but there's a couple of things where, as it names stuff, as there's here, this is, I should think I could show this here. And I'll show like I'll show a high-res version of this here as I look at this. It breaks the adventure into 4 parts, and it kind of gives them a little bit of a name for each of the parts. And one of the parts, the second part, is Team Rocket blasting off again. So it kind of is a little bit tongue-in-cheek at times, which is a nice, refreshing thing when it comes to modules. Because look, as GMs, when we're reading a lot of these modules, and whether it's Transformers, whether it's D&D, whether it's Pathfinder, whether we're in space playing GURPS or whatever the hell we're playing. Sometimes pre-printed modules can take themselves way too seriously. So it's a nice, refreshing take to where they, especially in the core rulebook and this, where they do take the time out to kind of have a little fun along with your fun. So it's, like I said, it's a nice, refreshing take on this. So the question is, I guess we'll get this right out of the way. Should you or should you not pick this up? The GM screen is super useful. And I don't know if you can actually get this on the site by itself. It does not look like the GM screen is available on its own by itself. So to get the GM screen, the physical GM screen, like I said, not a requirement, but very, very useful. You need to get the pack that comes with the adventure. You can just get the adventure by itself. I believe in PDF or physical version. And I know that Renegade Games has been doing it where if you have been pre-ordering, and I pre-ordered this, I got a code for the free PDF. So I didn't have to pay for the PDF, which is going to be what you're going to see on screen every once in a while when I decided to show stuff. Yeah, that came for free. I don't know how long they're going to keep doing that, or if that's just the thing that they've been doing or going to be doing in the future. But everything that I have pre-ordered from them that has been a book, I've gotten a PDF for it. So same thing with the rulebook. I got a PDF for the rulebook for free. And the adventure, I got the free PDF because, like I said, I went ahead and pre-ordered. My suggestion is, because the GM screen is so useful, and if you are not as familiar with running the Essence20 system, especially with Transformers, like I said, having particular rules, I think it's a good pickup. It's not that expensive. That the GM screen construction quality is pretty solid. It's thick. It's a thick boy. I've had a couple of problems with other GM screens in the past, where you go to set it down and the thing likes to fold in on itself. This seems to not have that problem as bad as other GM screens have had. But it is all paper. So, I mean, tearing could be an issue over time. So obviously I just got this product, so I haven't really put it to work. I haven't beaten it up yet. I've been trying to keep everything in good condition. But it does have where it, like I said, I've had GM screens do this, and they fold in on itself on the table where I have to like prop up stuff against it to make sure it doesn't fold up. This one doesn't seem to have that problem. I mean, I can obviously fold it up, but when it's on the table, it stays unfolded in the spot where I want it to be in. And a couple of things. Now, I don't have a PDF of this, but a couple of things that if you play the Essence20 system for is important is this right here. This is your shift chart. So when you're shifting dice up and down sizes, this game uses skill dice as different dice. So you can have a dice that is a skill that's a D2 or a D4 or a D8 or a D12. And there are certain effects in the game, whether player-based or whether the character has an option to make a skill better or worse, or the effects of the game make a skill better or worse. This is going to be where you as the GM assign, okay, you get a +2 shift because you're using a GPS, but then all it's it's rainy and horrible out and you can't see very well. So we're going to get a downshift. So this will give you a chart of what the die that should be used and what it means when you go above and below kind of the maximums. You also get sizes when you have characters that are going to be grappling characters of different sizes. You get pluses and down, obviously if, Omega Supreme being enormous tries to, suplex Bumblebee, he's going to get a lot of advantage because he's enormous and Bumblebee's tiny, or if Bumblebee is trying to shove, Megatron, he's not going to have a greatest of time doing it because he's a little smaller guy. Megatron's a big beefy guy. So this will give you little plus and up and down shifts if you have characters manipulating characters of different sizes, which you may have. And it just gives you like traveling, especially when you're having alt modes. And we have the travel pace here. If you do have alt modes that have high speeds. So we can have a character going 200, 300, 400 feet in a round because they're a super like sports car or whatever, or they're a plane flying at super fast speeds. Sometimes so you have the little chart here for travel pace or overland pace. So it's how I call it. And it does give you useful abilities where it's certain character and class abilities or role abilities and what they do. Cover just like your general information, what you'd expect on a DM screen, the turn order, skills, useful information. So if not for nothing else, the DM screen is worth the price of admission for this. So this is at the moment, at this time of this recording, it's $30 for both of these. I think it's worth the price of admission. And now shifting over to the adventure is worth it. The adventure is pretty good. It is your standard, yet again, this is for 4 to 5 players of first level. I mean, you probably could play this at second level. You probably, and the reason I'm saying that is even though it says that it's for first level characters, the interesting thing that I think that they go into here is every time that there's a battle, a conflict, they do give you here, if you feel that the players are having a hard time, whether they may not have the right skills for the right job, whether they're just having super bad luck with die rolls and you don't intend on like really killing people, or they're just making not so optimal decisions and they're having the odds stacked against them and you want to kind of lighten the load a little bit. They do give adjusting encounters if you want to adjust the counter on the weak side, meaning that making the counter easier. Each counter has a weak mechanic where you can remove and tells you what to remove or things that you can change to make the encounter a little easier if your players are getting a little bit overwhelmed and you don't want to have to put the screws to them. And there's ways to do that. And each encounter also has a strong mechanic where this is something where if your players are really kind of walloping the adventure and it's turning too easy, or maybe your characters are higher level. Maybe your characters are second level. Maybe they played one of the other adventures. Maybe the free adventure that came in the book. Maybe the free adventure that's available on their website. And this is a continuation. This is, you've already maybe leveled them up once and now they're level 2. You can kind of increase it to strong to give it a little bit more of a challenge for characters who are going to have a couple extra things. So that's really cool. There's a lot of cool artwork in here. Just to show a little artwork here. You have, yet again, this is a little bit of a spoiler because these are the enemies that you're going to see later on in the adventure. So if you're a player, turn away. GMs will know. You have Rumble and Ravage. This actually isn't the original Ravage. Soundwave likes to clone him. But you have this, like I said, I'll throw this up on the screen, more high risms. But as you see, Ravage clone, which may mean you might be fighting more than one. Just saying. Then you have just, generic enemies in here as well. Your generic engineer, your Decepticon engineer. Basically, the moral of the overarching story, which the players are going to find out basically right in the beginning of the adventure, is that the Autobots are trying to establish contact with their home of Cybertron. Remember from the original show, and this is where this kind of game takes place, unless your game may be different, but this adventure is assuming that you're using the original Generation 1 kind of storyline where you have left Cybertron, you got stuck, you were flying, you crash landed on Earth, millions of years passed, the Autobots and the Decepticons then got woken up, and they started fighting on Earth. There's a whole bunch of Energon on Earth, and they're battling back and forth, and Optimus and all the Autobots are trying to stop the evil Decepticons. And you have no contact with your Cybertron. That has been millions of years, and they have never received contact from you. So they don't know if you're alive or dead. You don't even know if anyone's left on Cybertron alive. The idea is you guys are trying to establish contact, and that's kind of the whole mission here, is you guys have been in secret building a rocket to establish contact with the Cybertron. And the whole point is you're trying to kind of like, you guys are almost finished, and you guys are kind of going and helping Chrome Dome to finish and make all the final adjustments. And then, the worst strikes, the Decepticons figure out what you're doing, and they attack, and then the fun ensues. The one thing I liked about this adventure, now I've read things from Pathfinder Society. This is about the same page number as most adventures that I've read. Most 4-hour adventures. And this assumes about a 4-hour time slot. A couple of cool things that I like. Like I said, they did break this up into 4 parts. The cool thing I liked about that is, in the beginning, it gives you a synopsis of what should happen in all those 4 parts. Yet again, I'm not going to show this on here because it kind of gives you a breakdown of all the stuff that can happen and who you may or may not see during the adventure. But it does give you like a time limit. And it's not really a hard and fast time limit, but it tells you as a DM approximately how much time you should be spending on each one of these sections. So it gives, if a section is getting a little long in the tooth, you might want to probe your character, prod your characters forward into the adventure. Yet again, you're not trying to find. Now, if they're having fun, don't mess with their fun. Let them enjoy their fun. But if you realize that your players are talking themselves into circles, you may have one of your NPCs chime up and kind of prod them forward. So never be afraid to prod your characters forward if the game necessitates it. And I'm not saying, oh, well, it says 15 minutes and this is 16 minutes and 22 seconds. We got to get moving. If your character's having fun, your character's having fun. You're specifically your players. If your players are having fun, let them. But it gives you a time indication of, man, this battle's been going on for a little longer and they still have a whole bunch of stuff to do, or they've been trying to formulate a plan for the last 45 minutes and this section's only supposed to take an hour and a half, and the part them planning shouldn't have been taking this long. So it gives you a nice kind of time frame to go, okay, if I really want to squeeze this into 4 to 5 hours, I really need to kind of push things forward a little bit. And maybe you have accelerate the timetable. It also gives you a nice flow chart. And this is the nice thing. I might throw the flow chart here. I might blurb out some stuff. But the flow chart gives you a nice little things that the GM needs to be aware of at these moments in these parts. So obviously part 1 is them getting the adventure. They're kind of like sitting there helping maintenance and cleaning up the place at the Ark. And it also gives you a little bit of lore of why things are the way they are and why the Decepticons don't know some information which you might have assumed that they had from the show, if you're familiar with the show. So it's nice that they gave you a little bit of kind of background information of, wait a minute, when the Autobots and the Decepticons crashed, they all crashed in the same spot. How did the Decepticons not know where the Autobots are? It kind of addresses that in this adventure. Where the DM should be aware of things that are occurring in the adventure. Like I said, I'm really trying to avoid. There's a cool picture of Optimus because Optimus is cool and he's big. It gives you it gives you a little bit of information on when you're role playing some of the NPCs, what they should be doing, what they sound like. If you want to do voices, that's not a requirement. But yeah, they get this cool Team Rocket blasting off again. Yet again, it's like, I like the fact that they're a little bit tongue in cheek when they're writing these adventures, which I hope they continue throughout the life of the game. There's a little puzzle in here for the players to do in the second part, which I think is a cool. They get a handout which you can print it off of the PDF, or you can take a photocopy, or if you want to be if you want to be a menace, you can rip out that page. But that I wouldn't rip out that page because it's got a bag on the back end of it. But there's a little kind of power management thing that they have to do when they're defending the facility. Which is a cool little mini game that gets them kind of started. They have to pick and choose what areas that they're going to send power to the defenses on, and they do have choices of which defenses. Do you want the better defenses? Do you want the slightly worse defenses? But if you get the worst defenses, you get more options to power other parts of the facility. If you pick the better defenses, you're going to run out of power pretty quick. So it's a little bit of like a puzzle that the players have to then figure out. Then there are, because they're defending parts of the facility with automated defenses, they're not going to be actively defending them. So it's possible that certain things may go missing throughout that encounter if the Decepticons manage to beat the defenses, depending on which areas get breached or don't get breached. Certain things may show up missing, and you have a little tracker sheet here that lets you track what went missing and then where that part is later in the adventure. Because one of the goals of the mission is for the Autobots to recover all those bits that went missing. But then there's a chase scene, which I think is a cool little part in there. That's part 3, is like a chase scene. So after you defend the facility as the Autobots, you then have to chase at the Decepticons and chase down what they stole. And there are certain things where whether they succeed at parts during the chase scene or fail at parts during the chase scene, they either get benefits, or sometimes the bad guys may get benefits if they haven't succeeded properly. So it's not an outright failure, which is one thing I like about it. It's not an outright failure. So if you don't manage to catch them at certain things, that means that they may be more prepared during the fights later on in the adventure. Or if the Autobots manage to succeed, they maybe they get one of the parts that were stolen right then and there. They don't have to look for it in the adventure, and then they may get maybe more benefits depending on which die rolls are which. And they give you block text to kind of parse out the path. If if you succeeded here, you do this. If you fail here, you say that. So that's nice. The one thing I would like, so like I said, I think this is a solid pickup because it does come with this. The one thing that I would want them to do in the future, and this is a thing, either give us a PDF that has similar to Pathfinder. I'm a little bit biased. We play Pathfinder. I played 1st edition. I played 2nd edition. Pathfinder does come out with maps for their adventures. They give you maps in the rule book. In the book here, there are maps, but it's not big enough for us to actually play on. This is one of the maps, right? So if this map here, we need to put minis on this map. Okay, that's fine. I'd have to draw it out, and I'm not against drawing it out. But I would be willing to buy a book that has, or a PDF that has these, and I can print these out. Or I can buy a map pack. And then, so they're already doing the artwork. The artwork's already done. Let me buy this. Let me buy this as an independent thing. And so I can just come out, boom, here's the map. You guys are on, and we can just go. If they want to make more generic maps and make tiles or something, like the Paizo comes with the map tiles, and they come with the big foldable maps. You could do that. I'm not saying that you should just copy another company, but it's a nice thing to do. If you're already doing artwork for maps and not just explaining it, and you're showing us in here what things are, like I said, come up with a PDF and let us print it, or let us come up with a physical map and then let us buy it. So I wouldn't be against that. That would be my one issue with it is we have to draw a map, and we have to figure out and draw and then explain, and who's good at drawing the map and who's not good. And there are certain things for each one of the maps. There are certain terrain features that matter, that it's useful to print out. And the only other thing is at the end of the adventure, when they're going into the Decepticon facility to go through all the different rooms and what those rooms have in it, I would like an overarching map. So all these rooms are connected in some way. And I kind of had to read through each event. Not that I shouldn't read it. I read through each section, and each section explained what rooms were attached to other rooms. And I had to draw myself a little map of what rooms were attached to other rooms. And I don't really, yet again, this is the reason why I want an actual printed map, because my handwriting is atrocious. But I had to come up with a physical. So I know in my head, if I know that they're in this area, what areas are they attached to, and what areas can they get to, and what areas are locked off to them because there may be a blast door in the way, or there may be some sort of thing that's locking them down, but they may be able to pass it. Obviously, that's in the adventure. But I would like to like have like a page in there that just shows me the picture of the entire facility and all the little different rooms. That's what I would, almost like a DM picture. This like this picture will be just for the DM, and it wouldn't be, the players wouldn't need it. The players would be going from room to room to room. They don't need to know that Area 7 may be attached to Area 6. They just need to know, in this area, can I reach Area 7? So, like I said, having a little DM kind of like legend would have been useful. Like I said, I had to make my own because we are going to be running this at some point. But yeah, I think it's a good pickup. I think that they could start adding more to these. Like I said, those individual maps that we can go and buy or download or print out will be a great addition to this. And it's another thing we can buy, you know, and also giving more clear instruction for the GM on like I said, when you have multiple connecting parts to a facility, it'd be nice to have an overland map so I can see the entire facility in one picture. It may not be detailed for terrain features in each room, but it tells me, oh, this piece is in there, this piece is in there, this character's in there, and then all these rooms attached to all these other rooms. But as their first foray into a full purchasable adventure, like I said, they've come up with other adventures, which I'm going to be looking at in the near future. But for the first purchasable adventure, it's really good. And the one thing that I like over other adventures, because we play a lot of high fantasy here at NVNG, there is a lot more artwork and a lot less words. So even though that this is the same length from page-wise as other adventures I've read, and I understand that there's a lot of lore that you don't need to include in this. You kind of jump into the action and go. With some of the other stuff, you kind of have to have a little bit of backstory. Like, look, Optimus pulls you aside and says, hey, I got a mission for you guys. Here's the stuff. You're going to talk to this guy. He's going to outfit you with a couple cool things, and you're going to be on your way. That's literally like the beginning of the adventure. With other games, I can understand them having to give you, preface the DM and prepare the DM. Hey, you need to know this. You need to know this and this and this and this and this. And sometimes it gets a little wordy, and a lot of times your players may miss that stuff. In this, it gives you less, and sometimes less is more. And I think that is almost, very true, is even if you haven't done a lot of research on Transformers and you kind of just get the gist of it, you can kind of just fill in the gaps on your own stuff. And especially if you have a background lore knowledge of Generation 1 or even some of the other more modern Transformers shows, you can just throw that lore right in here, and the fact that it doesn't get in the way. And things are very much clear, and there's what you need is there, and what you don't need isn't there, and that's a great addition. Because I mean, there's times where I've read an adventure and it's taken me multiple days to get through it because sometimes some of the text is just a slog, and this was a dream to read. Real easy. It told me what I needed to know. There's a couple of hiccups, but it told me, like I said, for the most part, what I needed to know when I needed to know it, and gave me all the stats for all the monsters, because there's no monster manual for this game yet. But it does, there are characters in the Transformers game, like the main bad guys and a couple other things, but all the things that you need to know are statted out in here. This is Steve from Nothing Ventured, Nothing Gamed. May all your die rolls be crits, and may you always roll max damage. See you later.